Hello and welcome once again to The Fighter's Take. As always, I'm your host, Hollywood Joe Tussing, and on today's show we are talking UFC 232, the return of Jon Bones Jones taking on Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson. Also have the 145-pound women's title fight, Cyborg taking on Amanda Nunes, the 135-pound champion, stepping up to take on the greatest women's fighter of all time. Really looking forward to the last UFC card of the year. A lot of great fights on this card. So we're going to go over a first look of the UFC 232 card from the early prelims to the main event. Going to look at some lines over at my bookie. Make a pick for the co-main and main event of the evening. So let's get into the beginning of the card. On the early prelims, we get Uriah Hall is going to welcome Bevan Lewis. 6-0 is stepping in against Uriah Hall, who is 13-9, but always super exciting. I'm really looking forward to Uriah Hall. Interested to see if he comes away with another spectacular spinning head kick knockout, a nice wheel kick to the side of Bevan Lewis to welcome him into the UFC. Then on the FS1 prelims, we have the return of BJ Penn taking on the Ultimate Fighter winner Ryan Hall. We have Brian Kelleher, Nathaniel Wood. Really great fights, topped off with Kat Zingano taking on Megan Nosferatu Anderson. Super excited for this women's fight. 10-3 Kat Zingano taking on 8-3 Megan Anderson. Kat Zingano, a perennial contender, a legend in women's MMA. She has fought everyone. Taking on Megan Anderson, most recently lost a decision to Holly Holm. Basically just wasn't really ready for the high-level martial arts of Holly Holm, and I think she'll find herself in that position in this fight with Kat Zingano. Megan Anderson is very big and very powerful, but I think Kat Zingano will weather the early storm and come away with an armbar finish towards the end of the second, mid-third round. Really looking forward to that women's fight. That will take us to the main card. We have Andrei Arlovski, the Pitbull, another legend of MMA, taking on Walt Harris. Walt Harris is a knockout machine. He's 11-7, all of his wins coming by knockout. Andrei Arlovski is 27-17. I think he has 17 KOs, but in his last few fights, he's had some long losing streaks, and he's really trying to get himself back on track. Has changed his fighting style a bit, picks his shots a little better, and Walt Harris, if he isn't able to get the KO, he isn't able to get it done, and I don't think he'll get it done against the Pitbull. So I'm going with Andrei Arlovski in this one, looking for Arlovski to come away with another decision, possibly a submission in towards the end of the fight, late in the third round, if he can get Walt Harris tired. That'll take us to Money Mendez. Chad Mendez back after a nice hiatus. Finished Miles Jury. Now he's going to take on Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski is 18-1. Mendez is 18-4. But the difference in this fight is the level of competition that these guys have faced. Volkanovski just really hasn't had the level of competition that Chad Mendez has. And I'm going to have to go with Chad Mendez in this fight. I think he gets it done in the first round with a left hook on the inside. That'll take us to Corey Anderson against Yair Latifi. Really like this fight. Corey Anderson likes to snuggle fight. Has 4 KOs on his record. All the rest of his wins are decisions. Yair Latifi's got power in his hands, and he's good at transitioning into submissions. Most recently put OSP to sleep with a guillotine after rocking him real well. And I'm going to go with Yair Latifi in this fight. He's just more powerful and has more weapons than Corey snooze button Anderson. I'm not a fan of his fighting style. I'm not a fan of snuggle fighters. So I'm going with Latifi in this fight. That'll take us to another legend on this card. We have Carlos the Natural Born Killer Condit taking on Michael Chiesa as Chiesa steps up to 170 pounds. 14-4 Chiesa taking on 30-12 Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit is a submission machine, but Michael Chiesa is great on the ground as well. I think this will be a super fast-paced first round that sees Carlos Condit finally turn things around. He's on a 4-fight losing streak with losses to Robbie Lawler, Damian Maia, Neil Magny, and most recently he was defeated by, off the top of my head, Alex Oliveira. So he really needs to come away with a win. I'm hoping he gets a win in this fight, puts Michael Chiesa away, and rides off into the sunset. I really don't see much more for Carlos Condit to do in the world of MMA. He's held titles. He's had outstanding fights and put on amazing shows. He's in the twilight of his career, and I don't want to see him take it too far. 4 losses in a row is not the greatest look for somebody that has been such a staple of MMA. So I'm really hoping Carlos Condit comes away with a win in this fight and can ride off into the sunset with a storybook ending. That would take us to our co-main event. Super excited for this fight because I'm always excited to watch Cyborg fight. To me, the greatest women's fighter of all time, taking on Amanda Nunes, who's stepping up from 135. Amanda Nunes most recently just beating the brakes off of Raquel Pennington. But Amanda Nunes at 15-4, I think she was. There was no business for Raquel Pennington at 9-5 to be in that fight, other than that she needed an opponent. I don't think Amanda Nunes got the split decision in the fight versus Valentina Shevchenko. I went with Shevchenko in that fight. So I think when she moves up to fight an extremely dominant striker like Cyborg, she's in serious trouble. Anything that Nunes does, Cyborg does better. She's better on the feet. She's better on the ground. She's more powerful and more durable. So I'm going with the minus 270 favorite in this one to the plus 220 on Amanda Nunes. It's just not enough for me to take that risk. I got to go with Cyborg in this one. She's way too dominant. I really don't think the 135-pound Amanda Nunes is going to have the power or the strength to deal with someone like Cyborg. After that co-main event banger, we get another outstanding fight. The second go-round for Jon Bones Jones and Alexander Gustafsson. Supposedly, Daniel Cormier will vacate the light heavyweight title when the referee says fight, and this one will be for the 205-pound strap. Jon Bones Jones, the greatest fighter or male fighter of all time, against Alexander Gustafsson. Probably the closest fight in Jon Jones' career came against Gustafsson in their first fight. But Jones says he didn't even train for that one, and it's hard not to believe the guy with all of the things that he's been caught up in. But now he says he's seen the error of his ways. He's going to change, and he's going to take it serious and be the champion that he knows that he can be, because just on raw talent and athleticism alone, he has destroyed everyone. He was masterful in his performance over Daniel Cormier, really set up that head kick knockout, knew what he wanted and looked for it. I'm hoping that he puts in another masterful performance against Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson fought Glover Teixeira in his last fight, and I was pretty disgusted with that one. It seems every fight that we get from Gustafsson since he fought Jon Jones, he runs away more and more from his opponents. In the last fight with Teixeira, he had to have spent at least 3 minutes with his back turned running away. I understand that sometimes in the heat of the exchange, turning and taking off to the left or the right to separate, that happens. But to make that your go-to defense for striking, as Alexander Gustafsson seems to have in his last couple fights, I just don't think there's any place for that in mixed martial arts. We're here to showcase our talents, not try to catch people off guard by running away from them for 3 rounds. And that's what he did to Glover Teixeira. He didn't want to box with Teixeira. He couldn't really do much in the grappling exchanges. He was just landing uppercuts as he would move away and then stop, plant, and throw. But I think Jon Jones will be able to stop that with the knee stomp or the oblique kick or whatever you want to call it, the teep to the knee that Jon Jones does. I think that'll keep Alexander Gustafsson from being able to set and throw that uppercut. I think in the clinch, Jon Jones is going to be even stronger than he was the first time, and I'm really looking for Jon Jones to bring some of those dynamic elbows, the trips from the clinch, and that hellish ground and pound to make a definitive statement to the 205, to the pound-for-pound rankings, to all of the naysayers. You may not like his tactics, you may not like his personality, but once the cage door closes, no one gets it done like Jon Bones Jones. So we have to go, or I have to go, with Jon Jones. I think he's a minus 290 to the plus 235 comeback for Alexander Gustafsson. But again, that's just not enough money for me to take that risk. I'm going with Jon Bones Jones, and I'm looking for a second round definitive KO over the Mauler. I'm hoping that he works on some spinning back elbows and spinning back kicks, wheel kicks, to catch Gustafsson as Gustafsson turns to run away. I really think there's an opening there to expose Gustafsson. He's just going to that, can't even call it a defense, going to that tactic way too much in his last few fights. So I'm hoping Jones gets him to stop doing that by putting him to sleep. Really looking forward to this fight card. It's going to be an outstanding night of fights, top to bottom, from the early prelims with Uriah Hall to finishing it out with the GOAT. Can't wait to see it. All of today's odds and all of today's show brought to us by MyBookie. Head on over to MyBookie and sign up for an account. They're going to give you a 50% bonus with your first deposit. It's cold outside, but things are heating up in college football. The Super Bowl is right around the corner, and the greatest fighter of all time is back. So there's plenty of lines to get in the game. Head over to MyBookie, sign up for an account, and they're going to give you a little bit of extra cash with that 50% bonus. Thank you guys so much. Looking forward to the last card of the year from the T-Mobile Arena. And until the next time, I'll talk to you soon.